everyone! Today I am going to be doing a spoiler-free review on Snow City by G.A. Kathryns. I was sent this book in exchange for an honest review from the author, so let's just get started. So Snow City is a standalone adult fantasy novel. I would consider it to be magical realism. It follows a woman called Echo, and she lives in Snow City, but she hasn't always been Echo and she hasn't always lived in this place. Snow City was this dream world that she kind of created to escape the reality of her actual life, and then one day she woke up and she was actually in Snow City, and now she lives her life as Echo. That is basically what the synopsis on the back says, but I have to say that I think the synopsis gives off the wrong impression of what this book is about. I went into this novel having read the synopsis on the back thinking that it would be about what Echo's life was like before she was in Snow City, why it was so bad that she had to escape from there, and if or how she would ever get back to that reality, but spoiler alert, that's not what it was about at all. Let me give you a bit more of a clear synopsis on what this book is actually about. So it opens with Echo already being in Snow City. I kind of thought that it would be her reality and then we'd see how she wakes up and she's in this other world, but it starts with her already in Snow City, and she's been there for a couple of months now, and she keeps looking out her window and seeing this young girl standing out in the rain, but she never appears to be getting wet. And so one day Echo goes out and asks her what she's doing there and if she has a family, and it turns out the girl's name is Charity, and she is a ghost. She died and she came back as a spirit, and her family believes that she is a demon, so they kind of cast her out of her house. So Echo says that Charity can come and live with her, and that is basically the synopsis of the story that I can give you without any spoilers. I actually couldn't decide on a proper star rating for this book. I'd actually say that it'd be somewhere between 1 and 2 stars, so I didn't like it very much, but I think most of the problems that I had with this book, excluding a couple of typos, was all just personal preference. The biggest issue with this novel was the writing style. It just didn't work right for me. It felt like I was reading a classic novel, and it even mentions in the book, because it is told from the point of view of Echo and she is like talking like this, that you would understand her if you like Jane Austen novels. And like, ironically, I don't like Jane Austen novels because I find it hard to understand the writing. That more like classical kind of writing, it doesn't flow very well for me personally, and it makes it a lot slower and harder for me to read it. While that was a negative for me, if you like Jane Austen novels and you like that more beautiful classical old style of writing, then that could definitely be a positive for you, but it just wasn't for me. It took me a very long time to read this book because of that. My second biggest problem with this novel was the characters, because I just could not connect or care for them at all. Even though it was told from the point of view of Echo, I never felt like we really got to know her, and I also had a hard time picturing what she looked like as far as like age went, because it never mentioned an age for her, and because she spoke in such an old style way, I was picturing like a much older woman. But I believe like about halfway through the novel it mentions that she's around 35 years old. From that point on I could kind of imagine what she looked like, but because it's an adult novel, I mean, she could have been anywhere from in her early 20s to like 70 years old. Like, I had no idea how old this character was. I also felt like this was more of Charity's story rather than Echo's story, and Charity I also had a very hard time connecting or understanding or imagining in my head, because even though I believe she was a 16-year-old girl, I always kind of pictured her as a much younger person because of the way that she spoke. And like, sometimes she would act and speak quite childish, and then she'd be more mature, and then she'd be like really sassy and spunky, and then she'd be crying. And so I just felt like there was so many like emotions and character traits that she was going through that I just couldn't connect on like one particular character, because it felt like she was constantly changing, if that makes any sense. As far as the world goes, I felt like there was not enough world building. Since it takes place in a fantasy dreamland, I could have done with a bit more world building just to understand exactly what was going on. I also feel like the magical or paranormal elements weren't explained very well. As I said in my synopsis, it does deal with a ghost, but the way that it was handled wasn't like a normal ghost. Like the way that other people could see her, and like she said that she didn't have to eat but she could eat, but then also said that at one point she woke up in the middle of the night because she had to pee. So I just didn't think that they were like the normal ghost things that would happen. I was just very confused by all the things that she was able to do, and that other people could see her and interact with her, and she could interact with things. I just don't think it was explained very well, and I wish the world and all of that just would have had more descriptions of what everything looked like and what it was like in this dreamland and stuff like that. I just don't think it was was explained very well. As far as the plot goes, I think it had a lot of potential but wasn't executed to the best of its ability. The pacing of this book just felt all off. For like the first 150 pages, nothing particularly interesting happened. It felt like there were many plot lines happening at once. Like we were following Echo's story, and first, because of the synopsis on the back, we're following the story of why she's in this world in the first place and how she got there. But then she also has this other storyline where she plays the guitar or some other instrument that I don't know what it is at a some kind of restaurant, and she's offered to play at a nightclub, and so we're kind of following that storyline of whether she's going to take that job and then what happens when she does. Then we're also following Charity's storyline of being a ghost and being like outcast from her family. A lot of stuff is going on, but it doesn't feel like it's ever really going anywhere, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but the whole storyline of what Echo's world was like before she came to Snow City, like what her reality is, that was explained in less than a paragraph, and yeah, it wasn't really explained at all. So if you're hoping to get any kind of closure of what her reality was like before Snow City, just know that you're not going to get that out of this book. There's a lot of open ends, which maybe some people would like, but I personally don't. I know that I just explained a whole lot of negative stuff that I didn't like about this novel, but the one positive thing I have to say about it is probably like the 4th page from the end. That was the one time where I think the writing was actually really good, and the description that she explained of a certain event that happened, that I don't want to say what it is because it would be a major spoiler, but it was very beautifully done, and I was like almost tearing up a little bit just like imagining it in my head, because that was the one time where the descriptions were actually really good and I could imagine everything perfectly, and had it been a movie I would have almost 100% cried. And it is because of that one scene that I can't decide on whether I want to give this book 1 or 2 stars, because I thought that scene was just really well done. So overall, as I said, this is definitely a lot of personal preference stuff of why I didn't like this novel. If you like kind of older classical style of writing that's like really beautiful, then you would probably like this book a lot more than I did. It's very strange and mysterious. It's very fantastical in the whole dream element. So if you like that, you might consider picking this book up. And yeah, if you've read this novel, please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of it. And yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!